Hey guys, come on in, come on in. Welcome to Reporter Room. My name is Jessica Davies. I'm an investigative journalist, and my job is to investigate crimes, crime scenes, and potential suspects and share with you how to do the same thing. Everything I'm sharing with you is my opinion, and this video is for adults only. Viewer discretion is advised. If you haven't subscribed, well, it's free. So please consider hitting the subscribe button, like, share, leave a comment, and know that everything I am that I am sharing with you today is my opinion. So come on in, tell me where you're from. You can tell me what city, what state, what country, whatever you feel comfortable sharing. And so let's go ahead and get started. So picture this. The grand jury is closing in, and David is looking at spending the rest of his life behind bars, maybe worse. Maybe they go and make this a capital punishment case, right? And the deputy district attorney, Beth Silverman, leaks that an indictment is coming from the grand jury. And David knows he's toast. But he can't come forward because what he's done is so horrific and so awful that he knows that his fans and his public will never accept what he did. So what did he do? Well, his ex-girlfriend, Celeste, his ex-girlfriend, Kira, gave us some hints. And he gave something away when he was talking to Kira, who I believe was going to be another victim of David's. But he gave something away in his statements to her. And the truth of what David had planned, what David was doing, is way creepier than we could have ever imagined. So what do you think? Are you watching closely? So come on in, tell me where you're from. Today we're going to be discussing David's being an edgelord and something chilling I discovered regarding David's conversations with his supposed ex-girlfriend, Kira. And this is really going to shock you today. We're also going to look at a revised timeline that incriminates David and the real reason that David is fixated on Hello Kitty, and it's way worse than we thought. So let's talk about something so diabolical that I discovered regarding David's ex-girlfriend, Kira, and I'm putting a trigger warning on this because what we're going to be talking about is really disturbing. So what David revealed about to Kira and her coming forward at the time, I wasn't sure if this was a hoax or not a hoax, because remember, people do try to insert themselves into cases like this, right? However, looking back at some of the things, I want to go back to what Matt pointed out during his video. Let me pull this up.
/ relationship.
Okay, so this is Matt. Let me just move myself out of the way here. Okay, so this is Matt. Let me see. His channel is called Matt Thibodeau, and he's talking about this ex-girlfriend. And don't worry if you've already seen this. I have some new things that I'm going to share with you. I'm not going to play the whole video. We're just going to go through a couple clips of it, but it's really short. But I caught something and I want to share it with you.
With David. And in my opinion, what she said kind of highlights the fact that David is not only manipulative, but also very intentional. Some of what she says also showcases this split personality thing that David seems to have, hence his alter ego Itami. A lot of people seem to look at David's posts in the past and think that he's so immature, so childlike, but I feel like this is all an act. He's a lot smarter. He's way more deliberate than a lot of people are giving him credit for. And I feel like this persona he put on publicly was to possibly attract younger fans. She also seems to hint at the fact that David could have been talking to Celeste as early as summer of 2023.
So he's talking about Kira, which is another young woman that he was enticing online. So I agree with his assessment. I do think that David is a lot more calculating. I think the Atami avatar is a lot more diabolical. But I want to go to something that I just caught toward the end of this.
The phone. She said that in October of 2023, she reached out to David on Snapchat because she was in a depressive state over the fact that her friend had passed away. And David responded back, I'm a realist, so this might not align with your opinions, but basically told her that she should just be comfortable with her depression because other people have it worse than her, and she shouldn't be grieving her friend who had passed away a few months prior anymore.
So lack of empathy is something that we see a lot with sociopaths, and we can clearly see it here. But this is what I wanted to bring to your attention. So this is text messages that are between David, and so you can see that they're talking about that she's only 15 and gets preyed upon. David claims he's trying to protect her from all these people. Of course, we know this is not true because she's asking who Kristen is. But wait, it gets worse. David tries to say, no, it's my job. So he's trying to be the hero in his own telling. But this is the part that caught my eye. So he starts talking about, Real as a chat member. She's LMAO. Imagine getting hacked. Think about the terminology that he's using. For those of you that don't know, I'm a professional journalist with additional training in statement analysis. So imagine getting hacked by my alter ego. So we know that Atami is the alter ego. It's spelled IT4MI, and that it literally means pain. And I think the word hacked here is significant. I don't think it's by chance that he used this word. She says, I don't know how I have the character. I would definitely win an Atami fight off. No, you would not. She said, proof you're not winning against me. You definitely not winning against Atami. This is really disturbing in light of what we know about Celeste. But wait, it gets worse. So in case you thought, oh, she's overreacting with the statement analysis, I don't think I am. He says, you're not winning against me. You definitely not winning against Atami. She said, I would karate chop that bee. How would I not win against you? Let's be real. And he said, you after me and Atami cut both of your arms off. So now let's think about the way that Celeste was found. And think about the images that I shared with you guys. So let's go to some of the disturbing images that he was using, where he literally is using anime images that, depict him cutting things off. So this is one of them. Let me just make myself small here. So I think this is really significant. I think it's very telling that this is what he's into. And I don't think it's a coincidence that both on his Withered album, where I showed you guys where he had depicted Celeste with, the arm being damaged. And I don't think it's a coincidence that he was also using this in images like this in his rehab anime video, where you can clearly see, let me make myself as small as I can here. You can clearly see that that there is a young woman, and we're going to talk about why this is in this image. It's not the only one. He uses it again. He uses it repeatedly, and then he's telling Kira, and then he uses it again here. Same exact idea. And then let's go back to what he was saying. We have a lot of stuff to go through, but let's go back to what he was telling Kira. So he's telling Kira, you would not win against me. You definitely not winning against Atami. She talks about karate chopping, and then he immediately goes to, you after me and Atami cut both of your arms off. Okay. So I think this is really significant. And this is what I wanted to share with you guys. And I want to go dive more into what's really going on here. So this is so much worse than we thought. And I believe this is proof that David did have proclivities, similar to what we saw in the Brian Kohlberger case, when we learned that Brian Kohlberger was into and liked to watch videos about women who were being essayed after they were, passed out. And so I think that there is a proclivity here on David's part, related to, we're going to use the word disassembled. Please don't use the other dis word in the chats or in your comments. Disassembled of limbs. And there are two different things that can happen, two different things that can cause somebody to be into this. One is called acrotomophilia. So this is somebody who's just attracted to people who are missing limbs. Okay, I don't think that's the case here. And we're going to talk more about David being edgelord. And we're going to look at a revised timeline that I believe incriminates David, and discuss the real reason that David is fixated on Hello Kitty in just a moment. It's worse than we thought. But the other one is number 2, which is a desire to be an amputee. I don't think that applies either. I don't think that David was interested in doing this to himself. But the third one is what really makes me think that the fact that he does have this interest in this is, I think this is what his proclivities are. I think this is what he is into. So if you think about the Rehab music video anime that I just showed you, where, we have the alter ego Itami chopping off the arm of a brunette female character, a girl that a lot of people believe is depicting Celeste. And then we have the romantic homicide artwork, which is themes, that partner in the back of my mind, I did away with you, right? And he talks about how he loves gore. And, we have these, again, the arm, it's, that is gone. And it's always a female that he's doing this to. So I believe that, the fact that he named his alter ego Itami, which is Japanese for pain, I believe that this murderer, who he says is just fictional, because he's just doing this in the back of his mind, and that, seemed plausible till Celeste turned up in the front trunk of his Tesla. So in 2025, investigators confirmed that that Celeste, 14 years old, found disassembled in a bag or bags inside the front trunk of his Tesla belonging to David. And the exact state of her remains, we've gotten conflicting reports. She was frozen. She wasn't frozen. We know she wasn't frozen. The LAPD has been very clear about that. But we also know that she was found in pieces. We also heard from Sloan Hooks, who has a YouTube called Sloan, that he talks about, that there were cut marks. So what I think that that David was absolutely into this. And I think that Celeste may have been his first victim, in my opinion, but I don't think that she was going to be his last victim. And so why would David do something like this? And we are going to talk about David being an edgelord and how that relates to the Discord group. And we're going to look at a revised timeline that incriminates David in just a second. But let's stay with this for a second. In criminology and forensic psychology, the intentional disassembling, I'm watching my words here, of someone is categorized by the perpetrator's primary motive, right? So we have this, forensic experts typically use the following 4 classifications to easily understand what is behind an act like this. And there's 4 main reasons. They're all disturbing, so trigger warning. So defensive, which is a concealment, right? To make her fit inside the trunk. This is what happens in 60 to 70% of the cases. It's to make somebody either easier to hide once they're no longer with us, or easier to transport in the trunk. I think this could be part of it. I don't think it's all of it. So I want you guys to think about Steve Fischer's claim. I want to go, if you haven't seen this, I'm just going to play this really quick.
There has been a ton of speculation. There has been a ton of suspicion, and all of it has centered around the singer named David. It's pronounced David, but it's spelled with a 4. You can see right down there on your screen. The Tesla was his, and Celeste was his underage girlfriend. And he has not been seen in public since his world tour. It was abruptly scrapped. He hasn't said a word in public about any of this. And now comes a new bombshell report from TMZ that David will likely face charges early in the new year. They and also us, we have reported on a grand jury that's secretly been happening. There's been these hearings with evidence. They've been going on for weeks. And TMZ says the prosecutor in charge believes that David did have a hand in his girlfriend's death.
So I believe that this is significant, and I believe that the deputy district attorney, potentially with a grand jury, I believe this is leaking out. In my opinion, this is just my opinion, intentionally. I think it's to put co-conspirators on notice that he's getting indicted. He's going down. So he's going to have a motivation to flip on you if you don't come forward. So that we know that already there was one woman that was had the same attorney, apparently, that Rob Morganroth, who was David's day-to-day manager, had. So the idea that this is being put out there, I think is kind of a red flag. Hello, pay attention. He's going down, and you're about to go down with him, because if he's not naming names now, he's going to name names soon, because he's going to want to save his life.
This has been ongoing, and there's been so many different moving pieces to all of it. I'm joined once again by veteran private investigator Steve Fischer, who has been on this story really since almost the very beginning.
So the reason I think what Steve Fischer has to say is so significant about the chainsaw, and also we know about this burn box, this incinerator that David had in his garage. We've all been assuming this whole time that this was used, right? But I think it's more than that. I think these were plans for David's future. I think he had more plans for more victims. And I'm going to tell you why in just a second. But let's listen to private investigator Steve Fischer and Brian Ensign.
Covered a ton of leads, clues, evidence, been in Los Angeles, breaking new developments all along. So, Steve, it's good to see you tonight. You were hired by the owner of the home that David was renting, and you actually went inside the home. What sort of was there any potential evidence? Did you see anything that really stood out to you?
Yeah, well, so we announced previously that we found a burn cage incinerator there for one. And another thing I can tell you tonight is that along with that, we found a chainsaw, brand new. It was with the incinerator.
So both of these were brand new. Neither one of them had been used. So think about that. We've all been assuming that this was like maybe a scrapped plan of what he was going to do with Celeste. But what if it wasn't? What if that wasn't the purpose behind it? What if this was for future things, which is where the Lord Edge comes into play, and where this diabolical group that we've talked about, this Discord group that has the numbers 7 and the number 6 and the number 4 in it. Think about that, and then listen to what Steve Fischer is telling Brian Ensign, and just let it all sink in. And then think about what David was saying to Kira when he was trying to entice her in.
And there's no purpose for a chainsaw to be at this rental house. They're certainly not in charge of, trimming the trees or anything. So, we can't say exactly, it was unused, just like the incinerator, but I think, it could go to show some intent of what this plan was, because whatever happened here, like it wasn't a finalized plan. She was not meant to be left in that Tesla on Bluebird Avenue. And so, the plan got upended.
See, I don't have the same take on it that Steve has. Now, he has more pieces of the puzzle than I do, because he knows who was driving the car, but I don't necessarily, I'm not saying he's right or wrong. I don't necessarily agree that this was a plan that was upended. I think that leaving Celeste in the trunk was ultimately David's downfall. I think that he was, keeping her around as a trophy to have dominion and possession over her. But I think there were plans to do this again. I think this is what he was into. I think this is what his proclivities were. What do you guys think? Are you watching closely? And I think that this group I just don't think he was done, especially in light of the conversation that he was had with Kira. Now, he may have passed on Kira as a 16-year-old because he thought she was too old. Um, maybe she had more boundaries than Celeste had. Whatever it was, thank goodness for Kira because she is still alive. Celeste may have been an easier target. She was more willing to run away, whereas Kira was a little bit older and would have been less easy, in my opinion, to manipulate than a 12, 13, 14-year-old. But, I don't just say Steve is wrong and I'm right. I don't know, but I'm just thinking maybe these are still in their wrappers because it wasn't about what they were going to do with Celeste. It was what they were going to do next, you guys.
Yeah, and I want to ask you about the burn box in a second. I think that's what is that what you called it, a burn box?
Burn cage.
Burn cage. Yeah. Okay. But first of all, I want to get to the chainsaw because I don't think I've heard that before, that there was a chainsaw inside the home. Where was it?
It was in the garage, and it had not been used. It still had the protective shield over the chain itself. But
so just think about that. It hadn't been used. So why did he purchase this? If she was already in pieces, and I believe they went out to Santa Barbara County, in my opinion, to get her. That's my opinion.
There it is with a burn cage, and you got to wonder what this plan was, or what the plan could have been, and it's troubling because there's really no, just like the burn cage, there's no purpose for it at that house,
There's no purpose for it at the house. That's right. David wasn't going to be going out and doing lawn yard work, right? He wasn't going to be out there doing yard work. So let's continue on because let's talk about what the purpose could be. So offensive is another reason to disassemble somebody, and this is pure evil. This means that the disassembling of somebody, and I'm watching my words here. It's a dis word. It's not the assemble word. As the primary goal of the crime, rather than as a means of disposal. And this is why I think this was not unwrapped. This is why I think that the burn cage may have still been brand new in the wrapper. This may have been not plans for Celeste because she had already been taken into pieces, right? It was plans for somebody in the future. So why would David do something like this? Well, to achieve joy and pleasure, right? Personal, in the same way that Brian Kohlberger enjoyed watching videos of women being essayed while they were passed out, while they were drunk, while they were asleep. I think David had been fantasizing about missing limbs, and that, that for him, the act of breaking down the body, I'm watching my words here, is psychological. And it is an extreme form of dehumanization or a desire, an extreme form of someone's desire to destroy the victim's power. So this was an act, in my opinion, that he was into, and it's evidenced by the fact that he's first made the hacking comment. That's what perked up when I watched. I actually saw it on Lore Ross. He was showing this video of that Matt had put out that I hadn't seen, and what piqued my interest, and he didn't talk about this. He was talking about other things that he was catching, definitely worth watching, good content creator. But what piqued my interest was when they talked about hacking. And I was like, oh, and that's because I've been studying statement analysis. And then the next comment after that about when he actually literally tells her that he and Tommy will do this to her, will remove her arms. That made me realize, oh my gosh, this is something. This is what he was into. And then when I heard about the chainsaw yesterday, I thought this is like all the pieces of the puzzle that I can see. This is the way I'm putting them together. So I think that this was a way for him to destroy her in every sense of the word. And I think that he was going to do more. I don't think he was done. I don't think he was just, this was a one and done type of a deal. I think he would have continued to destroy. Let me just make sure I'm playing this. Okay. So let's talk about this. So this would have been another way for David to dehumanize Celeste. And I think the reason that this chainsaw was still in its wrapper and that this burn barrel was still in the wrapper could be that he was planning to use it, but we know Celeste was already disassembled in the trunk. So their only reason to have it, in my opinion, would be because he was going to do it again. So remember, I shared with you that I believe that David hated Celeste and that this type of act is driven by intense emotion, intense anger, intense rage, acute psychosis. I don't think the psychosis applies to David, in my opinion. I don't think he's psychotic. I believe that he has an intense hatred for women. I believe that, in my opinion, he's sociopathic. But this is evidenced by the way he depicted females and the way he talked about females, girls on social media, which is, another reason why I think it's so disturbing that these managers, these people around him, didn't have a problem with it. You want to talk about chopping up females or pouring boiling water on them? Oh, that's fine. You want to depict, dragging people and putting them in a trunk and going around the country with a adolescent-sized casket holding mock funerals? That's fine. You want to sell $35 bloody shirts that glorifies all of this to kids? Because that's who his fans are, right? They're kids. That's fine. It's disgusting. What they're doing was disgusting. So this disassembling of Celeste, I believe, was David expressing his hatred, expressing his vengeance. And this continued even after Celeste was done away with, in my opinion. Allegedly, he's innocent until proven guilty. But this is why he kept her in the front trunk of his 2023 $100,000 black Tesla. He kept her in the trunk to have power and dominion over her. Remember, David told everybody in the Discord chat he loved gore. And he also talked about this with the word video. And you will have to look that up. I cannot talk about that on this platform. But this is what he was into, you guys. And I believe that the chainsaw and the burn cage were for future victims because David was escalating. He was fantasizing about it. It started out with drawings, and then it morphed into videos, and then it morphed into him actually doing it. So let's talk about the trophy taking aspect of this and the fact that he hung on to Celeste. And then we're going to talk about the edgelord aspect of this and looking at the revised timeline that I believe incriminates David. And we're going to talk about the real reason he fixated on Hello Kitty. So it's really rare that a perpetrator will keep somebody's parts for long-term possession, but it's not unheard of. So to keep a trophy or a fetish from a victim as a reminder of the crime allows that person to relive it. And I believe that David hung on to Celeste and his need to be reminded of what he did for her. And remember, I think he was using that. This was his proclivity. It wasn't just a looking at the trophy. It was more than that. You guys, I just can't say it on YouTube. This was his proclivity, just like Brian Kohlberger had his proclivities. So let's talk about David's trip to Santa Barbara County. What was this all about? I believe that, this may have been actually exhuming Celeste. And to, remove her and literally keep her as a keepsake, and possibly maybe a combination of things. But I think one of this was related to his proclivities, just like I talked about with Brian Kohlberger. But I also think that Celeste was a trophy to David. So I want to talk about David being this edgelord on the Discord in the group that has the 7 and the number 4 and the number 6. So we're going to talk about this together. Please don't use them in a row in the chat. And then we're going to look at a revised timeline that I believe it, shows exactly what David was doing, but it also incriminates him. He incriminated himself. So what is the edgelord? Well, I believe that this Discord group, and this is why I believe this grand jury leak occurred. So I think that disclosing that the grand jury was actively seeking indictments. I mean, we know the grand jury would be seeking indictments. right? They didn't hand down indictments. So that wasn't the breaking news, right? If it had been, I would have gone live with it. But I was sitting there yesterday going, why are we learning they're seeking indictments? Of course, the deputy district attorney is seeking indictments. Why is this being leaked now? And so this is my opinion. I believe that this was putting everybody around David, that because I think this goes deep and I think this goes higher up, and putting everybody on notice with related to this Discord group. I think they're trying to get more, in my opinion, than just David. But it's letting them know, hey, if you didn't cooperate, David's going to sing like a canary as soon as he's indicted. Because they're going to go after capital punishment. That's absolutely, if this isn't a case for it, I don't know what is. So in the internet slang, what is an edgelord? What the heck is that? It's a person who deliberately makes widely offensive and nihilistic statements, and they're hanging out in this group that we've talked about, this 4, this 6, and this 7 group on Discord. We'll call it the Discord group, and 4chan. And the primary goal of them is to make other people feel like the edgelord. That's why they call themselves edgelord. I'm edgy. I'm a lord. They want to be appearing cool and dangerous. And it's really sick, you guys. It's really, really sick. It's really horrific. So I think that this aesthetic is really extreme. They're into, I can only term it as offensive imagery, but it's beyond that. They're recruiting actively online. They're trying to desensitize young people to this. So I think the pejorative to describe someone who's edgy feels really immature, and it feels really attention seeking, and it feels really performative, and it feels really narcissistic. And I think all of these things would have appealed to David. So what are the core characteristics of an edgelord, and how does this apply to David? Well, the shock value is one of the biggest characteristics, and intentionally using taboo topics, they're literally glorifying causing harm. So they glorify SKs, they glorify ideologies. Their intention, and this again goes back to a really low maturity, very immature, is to upset people. It's to stir up controversy. And then they do what's called performative nihilism. So this is adopting sort of a life is meaningless persona. And this is a way of narcissistic. And again, not all narcissists are sociopaths, but for sure all sociopaths are narcissistic. And I believe David does have narcissistic tendencies. I believe he sees himself as superior to us. I think he sees himself as more talented than us. I think he sees himself as being above basic human decency. He sees himself as being above social norms. So I think this life is meaningless persona is meant to project this superior emotional resilience, to claim that David was above everybody else. And I do believe that this is evidenced by what I showed you guys on the Withered album, where literally on his Withered album cover, he has himself elevated above the other 3 figures in his album. So most people have questioned whether these dark themes in David's work, such as the song Romantic Homicide and this horrible disgusting alter ego Atami, were purely autistic, or were these intended by David to be edgelord style performative content that mirrored David's desires, his darker desires and his darker proclivities. So I do think that David would have viewed himself as definitely smarter, definitely more talented, and definitely better than the rest of us. And I think he would have viewed anybody that was sensitive, and maybe didn't like that. He would have viewed that not as them being like normal, like most people would be disturbed by some of the stuff he's depicting, but he would have viewed them as being weak. And he would have been dismissive of their feelings about it, making, oh, it's just a joke. So we can see this in his interactions, in my opinion, with Kira. And just, what Matt shared about Kira's post and what she talks about when she talks about feeling depressed, what I just played for you. If you're just joining me, back up the chat. You're going to want to see what I shared at the beginning. But you can see that Matt talks about Kira, and she's talking about feeling depressed. She's talking about feeling down. He's very dismissive about it. Well, you just have to live with the depression, and even is acting superior to her about it. So I think that being an edgelord to David would have been a form of him to be able to online posture. And experts tell us, experts warn us that this can be a gateway to more antisocial behavior and real world harm. So was this edgelord persona David's gateway? So we're going to talk about the revised timeline that I believe incriminates David. And then we're going to talk about David's fixation with Hello Kitty because it's worse than we thought. But I want to talk about, this brooding persona, edgelord persona that I think David was cultivating. He was cultivating, being dark, apathetic, particularly with his Itami lone wolf archetype. And I believe that he was using this actively to entice Celeste and Kira and possibly other victims too. And he would have been juxtaposing that with these releasing his songs on Celeste's birthday, or in Kira's he released a song where the first letter of each of the lines in the song spelled out her name, Kiera. So I think that this edgelord type of thing is just performative nihilism, in my opinion, and that belittling other people would have been a big part of this. So what else do edgelords do in these kind of chats? And I think this is important because by raising awareness and sharing what it is, we can help protect other kids from falling into the trap that David set for Celeste. In my opinion, allegedly, he's innocent till proven guilty. But they create what's called lore books, LORE books. And the creating and sharing of edited compilation of gore. We know David told us he loves gore. And this would have been considered a badge of honor. It would have raised status within this destructive group. And this edgy iconography uses profile pictures that feature gore, and it's called glitch core aesthetic. And they use symbols including the numbers 7 or the number 4 or the number 6 in their persona. And David used the number 4 not just in his own name, but also in Itami. Itami spelled IT4MI. So he used it in both. And I believe that this was his way of letting other people in the group know that he was part of this. And so in the context of the Celeste Rivas Hernandez, please say her name, put up purple hearts in her honor, investigation, authorities are looking for these markers. So I think that they are looking to see if there was a broader network involved in what happened to Celeste. We know that the Department of Justice is actively investigating this. They are working really hard to round these people up. So I think that authorities, and maybe the reason that we got this leak about the grand jury and the indictments would have been to put his associates on notice. But I think, and we know that there's at least one accomplice, right? We've heard this, that there's one other person that was helping him move Celeste. And I'm watching my words here, move the Tesla. But there is another accomplice, at least one, and maybe there's more. So some individuals in his circle are reportedly feeling concerned now that they're finding out the specific focus of the investigation. So I think it's very, very interesting. And if you want, I can link let me know if you want me to. I'll link the DOJ article about this in the description if you want to read more about it. So I want to talk about David's incriminating timeline, this revised timeline. So let's look at that together. Let me take this down and take this. All right. So this is, I think, one of the, in my opinion, I really think this is a good group. If you're, I have a, and I want to give a shout out to Njaz who sent me this, but this is written by Peacehead8723. Final thought on what happened to Celeste, and then gives a really interesting timeline. So first of all, we have this Bad Bunny made his cover in my backyard. This is David bragging. You can see he's using the Hello Kitty right here. as his avatar, but he's got the Hello Kitty blindfolded with the red blood spattered shirt. And we're going to talk more about that in just a second. So put a pin in that. But he talks about that, and he's got the 2 empty chairs. Okay, just think about that. 2 empty chairs. And we're going to talk about what all this means. So Bad Bunny made this cover in my backyard. Fun fact, and he got the hashtag Bad Bunny and hashtags himself here. And again, just think about those 2 empty chairs. And then he talks about the Eyes Wide Shut film. And he says, "Is anyone getting married soon? I want to perform the first song of the album." So he's really feeling happy. So let's think about what he posted here, and then think about the timeline. And just let me make sure I'm not blocking. Okay. So this is from Peacehead8723, and the group is D4Viots. So he says, quote, I don't know if this content creator is a male or a female, but Peacehead says, "I was looking for info on when he got those piercings, October 24th to November 24th, when I came across this, and it all clicked even further. Info on when Celeste was done away with." I'm watching my words. I'm going to paraphrase and edit out words I can't say on the platform. "I can't hold a candle to why and by who, I understand. But 1, he wiped his Instagram on January 13th. So that's of 2025, you guys. And we know from Steve Fischer, the last known photo of Celeste is July 2nd of 2025. And we know the Doheny property, where David is talking about, where, he was living prior to moving into the mansion, and where we believe that he was still going with Celeste. That was put on the market March 7th. So I think that gives us a little timeline, but this is really good. So he wiped his Instagram on January 13th. He starts new photography Instagram on January 13th. He started Forehead's Instagram group about new stuff January 13th. So what happened? What was going on here? He posts the TikTok. I just showed you the clips from. I can't play his TikTok because he's got but while showing 2 lawn chairs, and I just showed you that. That's this image right here. The 2 lawn chairs. So showing 2 lawn chairs, this was the house that Celeste was harbored at. So this is at the Doheny property, you guys. All the while reciting Bad Bunny lyrics, which says something about wishing you took more pictures of an ex relationship on January 13th. So I think this gives us some clues into the timeline of January 2nd, last known picture of her. And that's the one with the heads, her head mirroring the other head. And he's got in his other hand a picture of himself holding up the knife, you guys. So posted on Bloody Lemonade Pictures. This is when the TikTok was shutting down. So he found joy in another ending. He said, SF Investigate said he can't find any more pictures of Celeste being confirmed alive from January 3rd to January 20th. Now, I don't know what the significance is of the 20th. Neither does this content creator. If you have a theory about it, let me know what you think the significance to SF Investigates is of January the 20th. But it sounds like something else happened around that time. In late March, early April, he references Celeste in his Zach Sang interview, saying she's no longer in his life. I've played that for you in a prior video. I'm not going to play it again, but he talks about she's no longer in his life. Celeste Yay Woohoo Discord account was out of the chat as early as December 21st of 2024. She was once again confirmed in July of 2025 to have not been in the server, and David's mod, Safia, got weirdly defensive about confirming that Celeste was no longer in the chat as well. So what did Safia know? And why was she defensive about it? Now, maybe David just told her some made-up story about it. Number 10, the house he has pictured in the backyard goes up for renter sale. He's saying February, but it went up on, I showed you guys, the Doheny property went back on the market on March 7th. I believe that he would have returned it back to the person that he leased it from probably sometime in February. They probably repainted it, made some repairs, So, and it went back up on the market on March 7th. And so this content creator says, why keep a home no one lives in anymore? And then he says, I'm leaving out so much stuff. I'm not even kidding, tons. So to add to this, especially with pictures, if you can. He goes on to this content creator goes on to say he can't shut his mouth. I don't care how this case concludes. He obviously did away with her. I'm paraphrasing. The remnants of his crimes are everywhere because he loves attention. He loves himself, and he's the one who built and builds a parasocial relationship with his child fans, not the other way around. His discourse server was a safe haven for him. This was a chance for him to move through life as a popular kid instead of a homeschooled nobody, and he took it. He's never acted professionally since the inception of his career because he wanted to drown in the attention. He also didn't dispose of her, Celeste, he's talking about here, because he wanted to keep up with his accomplishments. I believe, in my opinion, it was more than that. I believe that it was more than that. The more I'm learning and just seeing what he sent, the message he sent to Kira tells me that it was probably more than that, that he really wasn't. Now, this content creator believes that Celeste was done away with in January. I think this is also most likely January, February, somewhere in there. This was him turning a new leaf and exposing his audience to another alter ego since Tommy had passed away. Remember, he had a Tommy in the music video pass away, and then he stood up in the place. He said there were 3 left. So we were being introduced to someone new. So this is why I think David had active plans to continue doing this to somebody else. He wasn't going to stop. This is what he was into. He couldn't even let her go. The fact that he hung on to her and just kept parking the car somewhere else when he would go out of town. We've all been assuming that there was a plan B. But what if there wasn't a plan B? What if he just couldn't let her go because he was into this? This is what he liked. This is what he was into. This is what he was, being gratified by. So he kept her until he was going to do it again. He says Neo and Asia and others might not have been physically involved in her murder, just knowing of her age and existence. We have no proof they did anything, and of course, they'd believe their rich friend over anyone. But would you believe me if I said her doing away with had been planned since 2021, 2022? Because you should. And question, what beach is he on? Is this where he took those extra D4Vd pictures? I believe he was absolutely thinking about this, fantasizing about this, and dreaming about this, and that he lured her in. And then there's a comment here just to clarify a couple of things. He started his new photography Instagram account, Extra D4Vd, on January 2nd of 2024, not January 13th. Also, the house shown with the 2 chairs is located in Texas. Given that, how can you be so certain she was harbored in that specific house? Looks like there was something back, but I think that it is the house on Doheny, in my opinion. But I do want to give you both sides. And then he said has a correction here. He says SF, that's SF Investigates. Steve Fischer says that 20th that says the 20th because that's when David was on a Delta flight home and didn't take. Okay, so this is why the January 20th is significant. David was on a Delta flight home and didn't take a PJ. So odds of Celeste being on the same flight are low. Another tidbit, Celeste flew out of the country with him before to go to Paris. So that's why him taking Delta with Celeste wouldn't have made sense. And so this content creator wants to know, this commenter wants to know, how do you know Celeste went to Paris with him? And he says, or she says, they confirmed it in the Discord. You can probably find it by typing Paris in here or D4Vd2. A fan saw David constantly interacting with Celeste from the crowd and then pointed it out on the Discord. You can also see the Discord archives. Like I said, I don't have all the pictures anymore. Sorry, but they're out there. So I think this is really interesting. I thought it was very, very telling. And then let's go back to thinking about what was said on Matt's, where he's, again, David, this is Matt talking about David's former girlfriend. This is Kira sharing some interesting stuff.
his alter ego could cut both of her arms off. I mean, how weird is that? And then, as I was saying at the beginning of this video, where David seems to do things that are well thought out with intention, despite what many people may realize, this is another example of it. He had this song right here that is unreleased.
Okay, so song is called Ropes, and the first line is keeping. That's the K for Kira. The second line is etching. That's E for the second letter of her name. The third line is in. So starts with the word in. So that's I. And the fourth line is R. So he says right. And then the fifth line is and. So that spells Kira. Keira. He did it again. Keira. He did it again. Keira.
Called Ropes, and these are some of the lyrics that he posted on his story. And if you look at the first letter at the start of each line, it spells out this particular girl who we're talking about right now's name, Kira. So when we think of all the things that currently don't make sense about this case, why was Celeste put in a Tesla? Why was she put in David's Tesla? Why was she left down the street from the home that he was renting, walking distance? I do believe that he possibly did think all of this out before he did it all. And I do think that we are going to see that when he starts presenting his defense, if and when he is arrested.
Well, I agree. I think I agree with what Matt says there. I agree. So I want to talk about the Hello Kitty part of it. And I want to say thank you to Njaz for sharing this, but we want to talk about Hello Kitty. Let me I do want to check in with chat really quick. I want to say thank you to Michael. Thank you so much for the super sticker. Thank you so much, Michael. I really appreciate the $1.99 super sticker. That is so kind of you. Thank you so much. And thank you, Njaz, for gifting a Reporter Room channel membership. Thank you so much, Njaz. That is so kind of you. If you got that Reporter Room membership, please make sure. Thank you, Njaz. Thank you, Michael. And Njaz gifted, wow, 5 Reporter Room memberships, you guys. This is so kind of you. Thank you so much, Njaz. Membership from Njaz. Please make sure that you tell her thank you. This is really kind. I want to thank Incognito for being a Reporter Room channel member for 2 months. She says, love you lots, and put up the roomy views. Thank you so much for being a channel member for 2 months, Incognito. You are awesome. And then Njaz gifted another 5 Reporter Room memberships, you guys. Wow. So the best way to get a membership, I always have people ask me, is to be in the top chat, be as active as you can be. Thank you, Njaz. And I want to thank Misty for the $2 super sticker. This is Misty sharing God's blessings. Thank you so much, Misty. That is so kind of you. I really appreciate it. And wow, Njaz says, Happy New Year. Wow, Njaz, thank you so much for the 50-pound super thanks. Thank you so much, Njaz. That is really kind of you. Thank you so much. I'll be putting that toward the channel. I'm actually going to be getting a new editing thing that's going to allow me to edit faster. So I'm really excited about that. Pretty Troll says that Celeste Rivas, I'll never forget her, the little girl. Lockie says, when I was younger, I was with someone way older, and at the time, them being controlling, you think it's about love, that they love you at first. You're naive and you don't realize what's really going on. It's so true. That is so true. So let's talk about the real reason that David is fixated on Hello Kitty and why it is worse than what we thought. Whew. This was like so. Some of the stuff that we're talking about is just so awful, you guys. It's just, I got done researching this. I was actually ready to go with this yesterday, and I just had to take a mental health, catch my breath. So I want to first draw your attention to this. Okay, so D4Vd has been using this Hello Kitty with the Atami blindfold and in this, horrible shirts, the red painted shirts he was selling. He's been using this. So this is also the D4Vd the D4Viots group, and this is by Remy Uranga. So let's talk about what Remy has to say on this. So just keep this in mind. David was using this Hello Kitty on all of his socials, and I've showed you guys all of the images of David using Hello Kitty. Now, him wearing Hello Kitty is not against the law. He can wear Hello Kitty. He can hold up Hello Kitty stuff. He can do all of that. But, is it okay for him to do Hello Kitty to use Hello Kitty in his logos and use Hello Kitty in his handles? So Hello Kitty, according to this content creator, is owned by San Reno, which is known for aggressively promoting its intellectual property rights. It's taken legal action on multiple occasions to stop individuals and companies from using Hello Kitty without permission. So this, again, is according to Remy Uranga. So, so what Remy Uranga is asking is, why haven't they taken action against D4Vd, David, for using this in light of what's going on with Celeste? Why are they continuing to allow him to use the Hello Kitty image? Is it because he's transformed it enough that it's under fair use, so they're not able to do this? Is it because they've already sent out letters and he's just ignoring them? Because from his point of view, he's just like, I'm already in enough trouble. What more are you going to do to me? But why wouldn't they be taking active measures, either reaching out to Mogul Vision or Darkroom or Interscope, to take down this Hello Kitty? These are the people who are responsible for David, right? These are his managers. So who's legally responsible if San Reno did want to take legal action to have David, to force him to stop using Hello Kitty for self-promotion and for the promotion of D4Vd products? He's still selling merch. So I do think that it's really interesting that they haven't taken any action that we know about. They haven't disavowed his use of it. Now, maybe they're just not aware of it. That's possible. But I do, I am surprised that they have not disavowed David. We saw multiple celebrities come out disavowing David and taking down videos that they had made with him, taking down songs that they had created with him. But we haven't seen anything from Hello Kitty. Now, maybe he's transformed it enough because he put a blindfold on it that they don't have any control over it. But if I were them, I would at least be disavowing his use of it. Think about Crocs and Hollister. This content creator points out that they quickly pulled down the D4Vd from their advertising campaigns at the start of September when Celeste was found in the front trunk. And this is before anybody even identified Celeste, before they even knew that David was having an illegal and inappropriate relationship with Celeste, allegedly, in my opinion. So David continued to tour like nothing was happening. And Hello Kitty is such a good brand. It's such a wholesome brand. I'm just sort of surprised that they haven't taken any action to disavow David and to do something about this. Why do you think that is? I'm just curious. And if you're watching, please come on up and talk to me. If you think that they have taken action and David's is just simply ignoring them at this point, he doesn't have anything to lose, put a 1 in the chat. If you think that they need to take action and at least disavow his use of it in public, put a 2 in the chat. Let's just see where you guys are at on this. I'm just really curious what you guys think about this. Let's do a couple of comments. I do want to check in with chat. And this is our head mod, Michael, and our other mod, Enjaz. This is our mod, Incognito. If you're modding today, drop me a comment right now so I can shout you out. Ramona says, Happy New Year, Jessica. You receive a prosperous year. I love you. I love you too. And God bless you too. And Dressa says, wow, yeah, it's really, I just felt like after going through everything and a lot of what I read, I can't even share on this platform, which is why I encourage you guys to go ahead and do some research on this. It's just so heartbreaking and awful. Happy New Year to you, Misty. Michael says, happy 2026. And maybe everybody just wants to be happy, and I get it. Who is Kira? Okay, so Kira was somebody that he was actively talking to. She thought that she was his girlfriend. I don't know if he perceived it that way, but they were talking. She, I guess, saw him once at the airport, but I don't think this was like an in-person relationship. I think this was similar to how he started with Celeste, and he may have had more, fishing hooks and lines out there than just Celeste. Celeste was just the girl he was able to reel in because she was young. And maybe the one that he was most interested in because of her age, and maybe because of the way she looked. There may have been something particular about her that he liked the way she looked. But Kira, he was also talking to and pretending and romancing her and pretending. Now, maybe he couldn't get her to meet him privately. Maybe he couldn't lure her away from her home. So maybe that, he said that he broke up with her because there was a maturity difference between Kira and him. And here's what I have to say about that. I would say if anybody was more mature, it's probably was Kira, even though she was only 16. So I think that she thought, and I truly believe that she believed this. She believed that she was his girlfriend. So thank you for your great question, Eileen. And Michael says, you are amazing, and Jazz. And so Lockie is saying that Kira is David's ex-girlfriend. And Jazz says, my pleasure. Thank you for modding today, and Jazz. Janine says Kira was someone online. Right. And she met him in person once, but I don't think she was like seeing him all the time. Happy New Year. Yeah, before they broke up. If you want me to play the rest, let's see. Incognito says, girl, you need state status. I wish I had people so great like you on my side. Well, you do, Incognito. I am on your side. I am here. I think it's too late. Ramona says, Happy New Year. It seems like I know everybody just wants to enjoy their New Year. I'm sorry. I hope this wasn't too much of a downer for you guys to go through this. But I do think that when I heard about the chainsaw and I saw the Trap Lore Ross video talking about Matt's video, it just made me realize that all of this stuff with Kira, and I had heard about Kira, I had heard about her on Reddit. I just didn't know if she was for real or not. But in seeing the messages that Matt put together and the fact that he was spelling out her name, to me, that gives her some clout. It gives her credibility. And it just, when I thought about the chainsaw and that burn cage, I thought, how do we know this was for Celeste? I mean, she was already disassembled in the trunk, right? Salone from Salone Hooks said that, that he had inside sources that told him that there were like marks on her bones. I'm watching my words here. So there were marks on her. So on Celeste, yeah. And the fact that he was saying this to Kira and talking about doing this to her. And look at this one. I mean, he thought that, let me just show you this. The fact that he's actively talking about doing this to Kira and that he was fine with it. He didn't have a problem with talking about chopping Kira's arms off. He thought that was fine. When I saw the hacking, I like perked up because I'm like, oh, that's a little bit of verbal leakage. When I saw the next screenshot that Matt shared, I was absolutely shocked. And then when I heard about the chainsaw, I just thought this is not about Celeste necessarily. I think this was about what he was going to do. I think this was for the future, to make it easier in the future. Maybe he wouldn't need somebody to help him in the future. But I think that this, I think the chainsaw was the reason that and the burn cage were both kept in the garage. To me, says he, had plans. He had plans for the future, and that he was luring in other girls besides Kira and besides Celeste. That he had other plans for other girls. In my opinion, allegedly, he's innocent until proven guilty. But I think he was thinking about this and fantasizing about this for a long time before he actually did it. And unfortunately for Celeste, either she, had a look that he liked or an age that he liked. And I told you guys, I thought that as she began to mature and stop looking like an 11 or 12-year-old and actually looking like, the beginnings of a young woman. I don't think she looked like a young woman, but a teenager, that he would have come to hate her for that, because I do believe that he hated women. Thank you, Marie. I didn't see anybody putting ones or twos in there, and that's okay. Andressa says, you think he was going to do it again? I absolutely do. I think that's the reason that he couldn't let go of her, is because this is what he was into. This was his proclivity. So he wasn't going to let his power and dominion go over her. But look at this post. Hold on. So he's talking about here, literally, if, chopping up somebody, if he sees her talking with other dudes. This is what he shared on TikTok. This is what he thought about. This is what he was into. And he was using the Hello Kitty persona, in my opinion. This is me, watching her scream after I poured boiling water on her after she told the boy, happy birthday. Why are you happy he made it? This is what he's promoting. And again, this, takes me back to the managers. Josh Marshall, you have a 14-year-old daughter. What were you thinking? You weren't thinking about her and how this affects females when you put out this type of hatred toward girls. Rob Morganroth, what were you thinking? We know what David was thinking. What were you thinking? You were older and should have known better. Why did you think this guy was okay to put out there? And I just want to point out how similar this photo is of Celeste with this other image. Let me see if I can pull it up really quick. Let me see if I can find it. If I can find it quick, I'll show it. If I can't, I won't. Let me try one more place. But this photo of Celeste, he copied this photo too. This image of her is copied. There is an image of him with the same exact expression on his face. And then I'll have to find it. I'm not going to look for it. Let me fast forward over this. So this was put out by Harvey Levin today.
She is, there's a lawyer in town named Marty Singer. We always call him the legal pit bull. She is every bit
the DA's version
every bit that.
of the legal pit bull.
Yes. And she has been, as a matter of fact, Alexa, come over here for a second.
We know that she's been some of the people that she's been grilling.
Coming over.
Can you guys hear them okay? I just didn't want to play it. Could you guys hear it? Njaz, can you hear that? Michael, can you hear it? Yeah, she does. She looks really little. Thanks for modding today, Tara. Can you guys hear the sound? I just don't want to play the whole thing and then find out you guys couldn't hear it.
And they're all, do we have a boom mic over?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
Alexa
Thank you,
has been
Njaz.
down at
Thank
the
you,
grand
Jess.
jury room for a couple of weeks now.
Thank you, Michael.
And they're in a recess right now for the holiday. But you saw the manager of David, the day-to-day manager, going in and out. And when he came out and talked to his lawyer, he made it clear that Beth Silverman was rabid about this case.
Yeah, Robert Morganroth, obviously David's day-to-day manager, been seen with him a lot on tour. He kind of poked at that. He told Beth that he really didn't feel like it was his responsibility.
Well, she said, why didn't you call the cops? She said this to him when he was testifying. Why didn't you call the cops?
Yeah, and he explains that Beth was very pushy on that answer, getting that answer out of Robert. But he said,
and you just describing her as pushy, If she were a man, he would have said assertive, maybe, but not pushy. He wouldn't have used that to describe a man. That just shows you, in my opinion, the misogyny that was just like running through this whole group, not just David. That doesn't mean they're on the same level of David, of course, but, and this is Harvey Levin. He's an attorney, and this is the executive producer on TMZ. And I don't know who this young woman is.
It wasn't his responsibility, and that he just wanted to continue.
And again, we don't know what the question was before that led to her saying, "Why didn't you call the cops?"
Or something he had said,
Right.
but it's
Or something
clearly
he
a
said.
crime because you call the
Right.
cops when
Well,
there's a
she called-
crime.
Right.
So
she believes there was a crime.
there
Right.
was something that Morgan Roth apparently knew because he acknowledges it's not my responsibility. Something he knew that triggered Beth Silverman into saying, "Well, why didn't you call the cops?" So it had to be something involving a crime. Now we know that her body was found in his Tesla in a bizarre set of circumstances where in the spring he made this mysterious trip, David did, to Santa Barbara and spent a couple of hours in the middle of the night.
Right.
And then came back.
And then came back. And keep in mind, and of course, the car was found very close to the home that he had been renting. I mean, everything from day one.
Renting from the lease was under the name of the co-manager who was in Morgan Roth's company.
Right. So it's all kind of aligning.
It's
here.
all around David. I mean, as they say, like it's closing in. The walls. If you're David, you've got to feel like the walls are closing in on you because the people that they've brought before this grand jury, plus everything that we know about the case already, that lines up around him.
And grand juries,
The old adage is you can indict a ham sandwich. They are going to listen to what the prosecutors present as evidence. And even if this started in some investigatory
I don't
fashion,
think it didn't.
It probably didn't, but this can morph into something they're going to hand down an indictment. That's what grand juries typically do. You can go on this fishing expedition and investigate, but typically their job is to hand...
We've confirmed this now.
Yeah.
Multiple sources. It was never an investigative grand jury.
Right. Totally understand. So now their job is to take what evidence is presented to them, even with witnesses who may be combative, and hand down an indictment. Whether that is murder or something else, we don't know that yet, or what degree of murder you're going to have.
We do know this. The cops have said, sources within the police department have told us, they are treating this as a murder, as is the DA. So they are looking at this as a murder, and they are looking at David as their primary suspect.
So once this grand jury, look, they may not even need to come back. We don't know.
They could do it much earlier. There's a hearing, I believe, scheduled for February.
Right. And in January. Right.
I don't think they're going to rush
But they
things.
could,
But
well,
that's the thing. It's just so unclear.
They've taken it very carefully this far.
There's
They don't want to botch it at the 5-yard line.
there's something I know. I don't think that February witness is essential based on, I can't say what I know, but I don't think that witness is essential. So they may wait until then, but they may not. I mean, they could come in at whatever point. And
They could. Why not belt and suspenders? They've been so careful and they've taken so much heat for being so slow and deliberate about this process. I wonder whether they will go through all of the motions. I don't know. You have more
now
sense.
he is not the only suspect. There are people they believe helped him.
Right.
And
In particular, the night he went to Santa Barbara.
right. And based on what I've been told, I think there's going to be at least one other person who's going to be indicted for this.
Hello, I'm Melodak. I'm from Spring Hill, Florida. And finally, David is on a shopping list to get charged for Celeste's murder. Possibly, because it's still not for certain. We know his manager testified, and I feel like in the beginning, they were trying to pin all of this on the manager for him to take the downfall, but I truly feel this was a multi-person operation. I think David was involved, and I think his manager and possibly even other people. It's just crazy that it has taken this long for them to get this far, and for there still not to be an arrest, just the possibility of an arrest.
Well. Well, you got to think about the circumstances here, that it is a tangled web, of going to Santa Barbara. And then if you're in Santa Barbara, why is the body ending up in a car in Los Angeles by his home?
Dismembered.
Dismembered.
In a car. Yeah.
Because I took a sip of water. I'm sorry. Thank you for letting me know. And Josh is giving me super chats, trying to let me know you're muted. I apologize. Okay, so what I said, and I am so sorry. Thank you, Anjas. First of all, let me say thank you, Anjas. I'm so sorry. Okay, so what I said was, oh my gosh, I feel so bad. Thank you, Anjas, for it looks like you guys were really trying to keep my attention. Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you, Incognito, who was also trying to get my attention. My mods with the euro €2.49. Thank you so much. That is so kind of you guys. I'm sorry. Okay, let me explain. I'm back. Okay, so what I was saying is that I'm glad. I apologize. What I was saying is that I believe that it's not. I don't think this is. Let me back it up, and then I'll play what they said, and then I'll share. So first of all, we're getting the validation. We're getting validation from TMZ, right? That this goes higher up, which is what I theorized last week. I shared with you under a speculation alert, and that this goes higher up. And that is also sounds like what TMZ is also honing in on. I do not think that the grand jury will have to go until February for David. I think that this may be related to an accomplice for the February. So those are the two things that I was saying. Let's listen in.
I don't think that witness is essential. So they may wait until then, but they may not. I mean, they could come in at whatever point. And
They could. Why not belt and suspenders? They've been so careful and they've taken so much heat for being so slow and deliberate about this process. I wonder whether they will go through all of the motions. I don't know. You have more
now,
sense.
he is not the only suspect. There are people they believe helped him.
Right.
And
In particular, the night he went to Santa Barbara.
right.
And so what I said about that was that I believe he went to Santa Barbara with his accomplice to get Celeste. Some people think they drove out there to disassemble. I don't think so. I think it was to get her. I think he wanted her, and he wanted to relive that in whatever way his proclivities made him interested in reliving that.
And based on what I've been told, I think there's going to be at least one other person who's going to be indicted for this.
So he thinks at least one. I mean, I think that's, you know, I've been sharing with you guys. I thought this went higher. That the DOJ is actively investigating this Discord group, and that I thought this may go higher than David. And now we're learning that maybe that is the case.
Hello, I'm Melodak. I'm from Spring Hill, Florida. And finally, David is on a shopping list to get charged for Celeste's murder. Possibly, because it's still not for certain. We know his manager testified, and I feel like in the beginning, they were trying to pin all of this on the manager for him to take the downfall, but I truly feel this was a multi-person operation. I think David was involved, and I think his manager and possibly even other people. It's just crazy that it has taken this long for them to get this far. And for there still not to be an arrest, just the possibility of an arrest.
Well, you got to think about the circumstances here, that it is a tangled web, of going to Santa Barbara. And then if you're in Santa Barbara, why is the body ending up in a car in Los Angeles?
So my theory on that is that he wanted it to be there. His ultimate downfall was the fact that he could not let go. He fantasized about this. This is evidenced by the comments he was making to Kira. This is evidenced by, if you're just joining me, back the live stream up. You'll want to watch it from the beginning because for those of you that don't know, I usually dig into stuff right away. But this is evidenced by his anime imagery. He was what he said to Kira in the chat. He was thinking about this, and then he did it. In my opinion, allegedly, he's innocent until proven guilty. And then I think he put her in Santa Barbara County. And I think the reason she was back in the trunk of the car is that he could not let go of her. He went back to get her. That's my opinion. And brought her back in the trunk. And he was parking the car. We know it was parked on Bluebird Avenue around the corner from his house at least one other time prior to the final time of it being parked there on July 29th of 2025. It was parked there one other time before that and other places around where it was getting ticketed prior to that. So I think that he thought that the car would be safe with Celeste in it on Bluebird because it had been there before. The problem is he couldn't take the car to go get detailed because he had Celeste in the trunk. So the car is getting dirtier and dirtier and smellier, which is why they put the Christmas tree air freshener in there in the car. And I think that also that was a hat tip to himself because he had that in his video. I showed you guys the imagery of that to prove that he had the Christmas tree air freshener hanging from the rearview mirror in his video. I think that is all linked. But let's continue
by
on.
his home.
Dismembered.
Car.
Yeah.
So there is a lot to unpack here, and I don't think this has been a particularly long time.
And we use the word disassembled here. We don't use the other dis word.
But remember, with the grand jury, David doesn't testify. He doesn't. First of all, they could call him, but he's going to take the fifth. But
there's no one refuting the evidence
that's right.
that the prosecutors are presenting. That's
right.
Why the ham sandwich can get indicted.
That's exactly right.
Well, the prosecutor does have to present anything that would be exculpatory or exonerate David. But just with the sleuthing that you guys have done, I think it's going to be very unlikely that there's anything really exculpatory that's going to come forward, in my opinion, about this. Supaloop says they found a chainsaw burn cage and the dude's frunk. What other evidence? Yeah, I know. Well, I think the LAPD is they're there. I don't think they need anything else. I think they're all in on this. I think they just need to get this before a grand jury. They have very powerful people like Rob M. and like Josh Marshall that they needed to get under oath. And I think that's what they got. Yeah, I think he's really a sick ticket. I agree. Ghost says, I don't do Facebook. Have a Discord for all of this. I'm on Facebook and I'm on Reddit. And I'm on Twitter. You can follow me. My name is Jessica Della Davies. And my name should pop up. There it is. If you type in my name on Twitter, I should pop right up. Justice for Celeste. Yep. Yeah, so we do have a Facebook group. If you're a channel member and you want to join, we have a Facebook group if you want to do that. Certainly don't have to, but it is a really nice group if you are looking for nice, wholesome people to come and hang around. I do want to say thank you to Enjaz, our executive producer, for all of your incredible research and for your wonderful modding today and for being an awesome executive producer. I am a very lucky girl. Thank you so much to our producers, Sasha Angel, George Brown, Michael L. Cole, Christy Ballantyne, and Tina Hernandez. And Michael also modded today. And thank you so much to all of our channel members and our awesome mods. Thank you so, so much. If you would like your name to appear just like this, you can hit the join button. That's different than the subscribe button. Subscribing is free and it helps me out a lot. And joining is $2.99. We have lots of members only videos. We have a members only Facebook group. We have a everybody is welcome Facebook group too. And we also have a Reddit group too. Reporter Room is on Reddit now. So if you want to hang out there, you can. And so anyway, I would love to have you. So I just want to say thank you so much for coming by to spend a little bit of time with me. Let me know what you think about all of this, and I will see you on the next one. Be on the lookout. There's a video coming out tomorrow. If you haven't subscribed, please hit the subscribe button. It's free and it helps me out a lot. Give this a thumbs up and drop me a comment. Let me know what you think about all of this in the comment section below.